slow collapse of Rolling Stone's harrowing gang rape story looked at first like a cautionary tale on the need to fully vet stories before publication. But in the weeks since the magazine's first editor's note, further doubts over Jackie's story have emerged, with Rolling Stone struggling to explain how it all went so badly off track.
A major American university tonight has a lot to answer for.
Almost as fast as Rolling Stone's story of gang rape at the University of Virginia set off a firestorm,
not one more!
The first thread started unraveling when writer Sabrina Rubin Urdelli was asked if she spoke with the accused.
I reached out to them in multiple ways. They were kind of hard to get in touch with because their contact page was pretty outdated.
That evasive answer led to further backpedaling by Rolling Stone. And then to Urdelli's admission, she never even tried to contact the accused. Now it seems Urdelli made other mistakes.
Rolling Stone describes Jackie as barefoot, disheveled, her face beaten, dress splattered with blood.
But three friends who met Jackie after the alleged rape dispute that description.
I don't recall any injuries at all.
The three friends say Jackie mentioned an assault and was visibly shaken that night. But they strongly dispute Rolling Stone's account that they were dismissive of her apparent distress.
Yeah, the whole conversation that was described in the article absolutely never happened.
And Urdelli never spoke to those three friends. So far, the story is still available on Rolling Stone's website. But the attached editor's note just keeps getting longer. Cannot believe that they haven't taken this story down. How many more holes do you have to poke in something before it loses total credibility? And it appears it has.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like Rolling Stone is acting out of ethical concerns, because this whole story was so unethical it sounds absurd. But certainly there's a strong belief among a lot of people online that you don't take stories down any more than you unpublish something that's in print. So I can kind of see that it's still up. But, you know, what a train wreck this has become. You know, somebody was saying on social media last night, this is a real cautionary tale. It's something that should be taught. Saying, you know, when something's this bad, there really aren't any lessons to take away from it, except don't do it.
Well, I don't know about that, though. I mean, if one of the lessons here you could take away is just because you sympathize with a victim and believe that their account is likely true, you can't let that sympathy keep you from vetting the tale they're telling.
Nobody,
right? I mean,
but nobody ever thought that you shouldn't vet the tale.
Well,
except Rolling Stone. Right? Except Rolling Stone.
But you know that is true, and yet a lot of people have said in the wake of this, there was a really good piece on Slate pointing this out, that a lot of women have, in particular, but some men have said, I still believe, what's the alleged victim's name again?
Jackie.
Thank you. I still believe Jackie. I believe something happened that night. You know, I'm not going to let this distract from what I think is the fundamental truth of her account. So they're taking it on faith. You know, if journalists aren't inclined to take things on faith, some parts of the public are.
Well, I don't know that they're taking it on faith, and I'm going to explain why. Because a number of those people responding to it is what I said last week, are themselves victims, and they know what happens when they have tried to present their case or if they've been silent. So this is the problem for me because in her attempt to sympathize and to set this up as a big issue, she's undercut those young women, or those other young women on the campus. It didn't hurt her story at all. However sympathetic she wanted to be, and we can argue whether or not she should have been, to find out and talk to these people, to find a simple question like, did the guy work at the pool or not? I don't understand. That's just basic.
Was she disheveled or not? Ask these kids.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's two things that really stick out here. One is that it seems like this sort of shows how we have a bias towards really good narratives that fit. I mean, it seems like the reporter in this case, she looked at a lot of other universities to see which one really could illustrate the story of on-campus rape. And just the incident that keeps getting sort of picked apart this week with the three friends, if you read that and reread that, I mean, it seems like fiction almost. There's so much detail. And the fact that that wasn't vetted or gone over in such a deeper way is mind-boggling. And the only thing that I can come to is the fact that we have a bias towards stories that just read like narratives, that are just this glorification of long-form journalism now, where things just, you kind of put them on a pedestal that you really shouldn't.
It's so exquisite that it must be true.
I want to add this, though, that because it can be done well, and it has been done well, by one Walt Bogdanovich. He did an incredibly detailed, with the victim's permission, and put a lot of information out there, and he did his homework. He followed up. He did what he wanted to. Who knows whether he was sympathetic or not? But there was a story to be told in a long narrative way, and he did it, and it was done well, and it proved this is what's going on, and this is the horrors of trying to deal with campus sexual assault. Columbia? No.
No, it was at Hobart and Williams.
Hobart and Williams, yes, right.
And our former Phoenix colleague, Kristen Lombardi, did wonderful reporting on this for the Center for Public Integrity a few years ago. It's a huge problem, and Rolling Stone's errors are such a setback to this.
Another area that we should mention, you alluded to it at the end of the piece, but is the fact that as they've updated this editor's note, they haven't been transparent about what has changed in their account, right? It went from being that we put our trust in her and she let us down, that was misplaced, being, well, we made a mistake agreeing that we wouldn't check her account with anyone involved in it.
Originally put the blame on her and then they backed it.
And they should be appending. They should not be editing and rewriting with no paper trail.
At this point, they're slouching towards accountability. I mean, it seems like every week there's something else that they're going to tack on. And it just, at what point do you just say, you know what, we're going to have to reinvestigate this whole thing. We're going to have to do what we should have done. And exactly. And in this case, the Washington Post has pretty much done the work for them, coming just up to the point to say that this story is a complete fabrication.